The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Attention Ditto Heads. Attention Bo Scouts.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
It's time for the soul of excellence.
He is a radio host here in New York.
The Rush Hour is on the air.
Rush.
Now here's James Golden.
And the Democrats are making some very costly history here. Don't lose that in all that's happening. This is now the third longest shutdown in history. And when you look at it carefully, it is now already the longest full shutdown of all time. You had an example in 2018, and you had one back in 1995 that were longer, but they were partial shutdowns because they only affected a part of the federal government. This is everything. And it's also important for us to note this is the first time in history that any party has had the audacity to shut down the government over a totally clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution. This is a political stunt, and it's the first time it's been done, and it is the most costly, most selfish, most dangerous political stunt in the history of the United States Congress, because as we have stood here day after day after day explaining all the Americans who are being harmed by this nonsense.
Welcome, my friends, to the Monday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. The shutdown has now entered into day 20. And as I thought about it and have been thinking about it, this shutdown is going to be an unmitigated disaster for somebody, politically speaking. Any good negotiator knows that you have to, if you're going to arrive at a successful negotiation, there has to be what, and you've heard the expression many times, is a win-win. When you set up a showdown, you want to leave room for there to be some way to win something out of it. This is a lose-lose. Well, no, this is a win-lose. It is not a lose, it's a win-lose. Somebody's going to win this, but the other party is going to lose badly. The way that this has been framed by the Democrats and the way that this is playing out. Here is one of the things that goes into the calculation. Who's going to get blamed? We've heard this from the beginning. Who's going to get blamed? Who's going to get blamed? This always seems to go politically, who gets blamed? And in that regard, just let's deal with that point. Who is getting the blame? Let us find Mr. Hinton on CNN, because he looked at some polling data, again, as they do. That's cut 16. Well, no, let's see. 16 is something else. That's the federal government blocking money going into California. Cut 3. This is Harry Hinton of CNN, and this tells you, I think, all in a nutshell, at who is framing up to be the winner and who is going to be the loser in this continued shutdown.
About Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating, we're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018-2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no real reason Donald Trump might say, at least when it comes to popular support, I want to get out of this shutdown.
What about the question of blame?
Yeah, okay. What about the question of blame? Okay, you see Donald Trump's net approval rating was down 2018 to 2019. You talk about 2025 as net approval rating is up. It comes down to the blame game, a game I loved to play when I was younger. Blame Trump for the shutdown a great deal. In 2018/2019, 61%, more than 3 in 5 Americans blame Trump a great deal for that particular shutdown. You come over to this side of the screen, look at this. It's a different world. It's a different world. 48% of Americans blame Trump a great deal for this particular shutdown. So it's more than 3 in 5 back in 2018/2019. It's less than half, a drop of 13 points. Again, it's no real wonder that Donald Trump, at this point, looking at the shutdown, says, you know what, it's not actually harming me politically, in large part because he's getting less of the blame.
And he's doing things differently during this shutdown.
Yes, exactly right. You know, we talk about Donald Trump and you say, okay, he wants to be a consequential, influential president. Well, if the legislative process is basically freezed up, you know, on Capitol Hill, you may say, well, then he can't actually get legislation through. But that's not how Trump is governing in this term. We've spoken about this over and over and over again. He's using his pen.
He's using his pen. He's doing stuff in spite of the shutdown. So let's look at this. Again, who's getting blamed? Well, the majority of people are not blaming Donald Trump for this. And if things transpire the way that they could, that could actually swing to hurt Democrats. What am I talking about? Food stamps. Here is an article from CNN. Roughly 42 million people are at risk of losing critical food assistance in November. Food, November. Carlos, when I say food in November, does it make you think about anything in particular? Food, November.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, Carlos. Thanksgiving. The food day of all food days in America. The day that, now the day is supposed to be to mark the giving of thanks that the Pilgrims made it safely through, and we're going to make it through the winter because there's a whole story of Thanksgiving. We go through it on the real story of Thanksgiving. Rush Limbaugh did that and popularized that. What really happened, it was actually a day that the idea of socialism was defeated in America, at least at the time. Look in New York City, you wouldn't realize that now. But let me get back to it. It's the big food day. People don't sit around, except for conservatives, thanking the lessons that we learned through the Pilgrims' experience in America. The majority of liberals think food. That's it. Food. Some of them, the more manly types, and that's an increasingly decreasing number within their ranks, might think about football. Food and football. And here we go. 42 million people at risk of losing critical food assistance in November if this drags on. You're talking about millions and millions of vulnerable families, of hungry families that are not going to have access to these programs because of the shutdown. What happens if 42 million Americans are not getting EBT checks? I will tell you what's happening on social media right now. I've seen, and we don't have them in the roster today because we have so much other stuff, but I'll pull them. There are already people, and believe me, for some people that you would think they're not keeping up with, they keep up with the news. Because I see young people complaining, what? Do you mean that they're going to cut off food stamps? Where's my EBT is going to cut off in November? They are already on social media complaining about it. How? Why? Because the Secretary of Agriculture, the USDA, has said that states will not have enough money to pay full food stamp benefits in November if the lapse in federal funding continues. Period. The money's running out. They had a fix this month, but for next month, the fix is not in. In 2 weeks from today, which places us very near the beginning of November, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins said the money runs out in 2 weeks. We're done. Not going to be able to send out the EBT cards. Now that, my friends, in the middle of what is supposed to be the beginning of the holiday season for 42 million Americans, I asked the other day the staff here, what happens if you lose? Has the government affected you, this shutdown? Nope, life is going on as usual. Well, you know what? If 42 million people, or a portion of them, don't get their food stamps in November, their lives are going to be affected. Okay, so add the number one, and by the way, if they blame Trump, that could redound badly, but right now, they're not blaming Trump for that. And right now, a majority of people are not blaming Trump for the shutdown. All right, let's look at something else in all of this mix. From the Hill, Democratic senators fear getting hammered after no Kings for ending shutdown. Some Democrats, skeptical about their leadership's hardline stance against reopening the federal government, there's a lot in that sentence. Their hardline stance, their leadership, the Democrats' hardline stance about reopening the government. There is an acknowledgement of who closed it and who's stopping it from reopening. And it is not Republicans and it's not Trump. Some Democrats, skeptical about their leadership's hardline stance against reopening the federal government, privately acknowledge that they fear getting hammered by their liberal base if they vote for a Republican funding bill. It's not, number one, this is not a Republican funding bill. It is a clean CR. It is the same bill that Biden passed. This is actually, and you know who wrote this funding bill, by the way? I found out last week who wrote the clean CR that we're all arguing about. Chuck U. Schumer. Chuck U. Schumer wrote the very CR that now he is standing up opposing. He and Hakeem Jeffries. It came out of Chuck U. Schumer's Senate office. They're the ones that wrote the clean CR for Biden. Grassroots Democrats are frustrated that the Trump administration, they say, has been demanding a fight. Well, nope, Trump didn't demand a fight. They did. In that context, Democrats know they'll get hit hard by a number of voices on the left if they do not get something for opening the government. What is it that Democrats can get? And this is what I began when I began what I was talking about. You want to leave room for a win-win. The way that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have set this up, it's an all-or-nothing game. They went to Trump and pretty much said, here's what they said. We don't like the budget that Republicans passed. If you guys don't change provisions in the legislation that you passed and signed into law, we're going to shut down the government. There's no give there. There is nothing. Republicans are not, because they can't. They can't go back to their base, all the political capital that was expended to get this big, beautiful bill passed, and said, oh, we didn't mean it. We didn't mean to pass the big, beautiful bill. Yeah, they meant it. And if they cave, their base will rebel against them. There's only one way out of this. Somebody is going to have their base pound them on the head. There's no middle ground here. There's nothing to give. Somebody is going to have to take the loss. Now, do you think the person willing to take the loss will be Donald Trump? Do you think Donald Trump is going to say, okay, I'll cave in? Ha! Democrats have set themselves up for a massive failure here, folks. Coming back on America's fastest hour in media. Do not go away.
Rush.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Oh, Snerdley.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
Yes, my friends. Here's a word from, the big No Kings deal was this weekend. Democrats out celebrating. Just wanted to give you something from No Kings. A woman and her kids, how they celebrated No Kings.
Did I just let my kids yell Donald Trump out of the vehicle windows as I drove past a No Kings protest that I didn't know was going on? Yeah, I sure did. And I am proud of them. These kids just made my day, okay? Screaming Donald Trump out the window. And listen, that whole crowd of people was cheering and clapping, and they were like, yeah, him. Yeah, I am so damn proud of my kids right now. Like, I'm taking their asses for ice cream or something because that was awesome. That was epic. And you know what? Here in a little bit, when we leave the park, we're going to drive by it again. And this time, I'm going to allow them to say it again. Yep, I sure am. I don't care what you think. Don't come at me for letting my kids cuss. It is what it is. But yeah, except this time, after the park, when we drive by, I'm also going to be blasting the same song that is in this current video right here. So, yeah, I am.
Teach your kids
so
to say F the president, and I'm proud of them. That's liberals for you folks. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot more to go.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
What's your response to the protests over the weekend, the No Kings protests?
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country.
Mr. President, besides San Francisco...
By the way, I'm not a king. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
Yes. Birthday today, Jay Siegel from the Tokens, of course, back in 1961. They went number one in the United States with this one, Solomon Linda's The Lion Sleeps Tonight. The lion is awake. And I'll tell you what, let me just get back to this. Right before the break, TJ asked me about Schumer. And he asked, okay, is Schumer can't do it? What did you say? Schumer can't do this because he'll lose his job? Or is that what it is?
Eventually, yeah.
Let me say something. Eventually, he's asking, what can Schumer do? Schumer will lose his job. Folks, This is one of the stupidest political moves I've ever seen in my life, because either way, Schumer loses his job. Let me explain that. There's no win for him here. Either way, he's going to lose his job unless Trump 100% capitulates and grovels, and it's seen as being humiliated by Chuck Schumer and winning. If it's anything other than a total win, the way that this entire government shutdown has been constructed, Chuck Schumer loses his job. Now, I ask any of you, do you think that Democrats are going to get the big win here? Do you think that they're going to get Donald Trump to bend and grovel? No freaking way. It's not going to happen. Here's the line. Now, this is how bad it is. In this Hill article about Democrats being afraid, a second person, meaning senator, familiar with the political dynamics within the Senate Democrat caucus, or a high-ranking staffer, spoke with the Hill before the No Kings protest, said that centrist senators, that means the senators in purple states. The senators who have to win some Republican votes in order to stay in office, the Democrat senators. They said, we would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine. Meaning, Senate centrist Democrats know what time it is. The only reason that they're too afraid to vote right now is that they know if they do the right thing, the liberal base has been whipped up into such a frenzy that they will be axed, A-X-E-D, politically. Their careers are over. As they put it, they would get the guillotine from their voters. And here's how Chuck Schumer loses with that. The main job of the party leader is to protect the party. Protect your troops. Not protect yourself. Protect your party. Protect your troops. What Chuck Schumer has done here is placed every single centrist Republican senator in danger. And they're expressing it. If I do the right thing here, the thing that could get me reelected, then my base is going to hammer me. That was the situation that Chuck Schumer just put these people in. He didn't protect their base, his base of senators. He just exposed them. No matter what happens here, Chuck Schumer is not going to be, in my humble estimation, the next leader of the minority. He certainly won't be the leader of the majority if this fails. He's put his people in an impossible situation. That is not leadership. The best thing that they could have done, and Chuck Schumer might have taken the hit, is to say, we're not going to, look, we need to pass this CR because we have to work on this thing, Obamacare. It is more important than this moment because that's underlying all of this. I give you as evidence of that, Ro Khanna, who, there are times when I actually listen to Ro Khanna and say, this guy has sense. Cut 7. Ro Khanna was on Fox News. This is what he had to say.
We cited the example they had last week where they said even if the subsidies expire, 80% of subsidies are going to be covered, or 80% of the premiums are going to be covered by taxpayers paying these subsidies. Why is the system, when we were told it was going to really improve everything and make things more accessible, why is it in such dire financial situation that it would take 80% of it being underwritten by taxpayers for it to continue?
Because the insurance companies are ripping us off. They've had $171 billion of profits. They've got their CEOs making about $170 million. Now, I supported the Affordable Care Act, and President Obama said we can't have people having cancer not be treated. We can't have young kids not having insurance. But it was a humanitarian fix. It wasn't a fix to the system. The fix to the system is to get rid of these private insurance companies that are hurting our companies, hurting our manufacturers, and fleecing the American public, and have everyone have Medicare for all, and then you can have supplemental private insurance. That is the fix to the soaring costs.
Okay.
Let me tell you something, folks. This whole thing could have been averted. There is enough there in what Ro Khanna said to find a deal, to find a win-win. That's the win-win. The win-win would have been for Democrats to say, look, we've got this thing coming up. Insurance premiums are going to skyrocket. You guys on the Republican side don't want to be blamed for that. We guys on the Democrat side don't want to be blamed for that. Those guys over there, the insurance companies, are making out like bandits while both of us could be potentially politically hurt. Let's find a deal on what we're going to work on. We'll agree to work on this. We are passing the CR because we are now entering to serious discussions on how to fix this problem, which is, by the way, going to be where the solution ends up anyway. Whoever caves, that's what's got to happen. Because Republicans are not prepared to totally to do what they should have done years ago and get rid of Obamacare, and Democrats are not prepared to let these and Republicans, these premiums just keep soaring and soaring and soaring, even though we're paying premiums for millionaires in some cases. There's your middle ground. And these Democrats are just filled with such TDS that they couldn't even see the middle ground, the win-win. Let's do something that helps everybody here get past this instead of setting up a no-win situation. Okay, let me move on. We got some other things I want to get to. And by the way, that shows you Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, these aren't real leaders. Real leaders would have protected their troops. And neither one of these guys. Instead, both Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer put the entire Democrat electorate at risk. All right. Quickly, I want to get to, Robert De Niro was out. He's not really important, but maybe we'll come back and get him. In the meantime, by the way, two things have happened since we've gone on the air. One thing, right before airtime, a federal appeals court has cleared the way for the Trump administration to mobilize and deploy members of the Oregon National Guard into Portland. So Donald Trump won that. Government closed, right? Donald Trump still winning. Democrats aren't winning anything. The government's still closed. Donald Trump is still doing and winning. That's a big one. Second one, and thank you so much. Lady Benedict sent me this story. After an activist judge in Washington, D.C. refused to jail. She gave probation to the guys that mercilessly beat up the Doge guy known as Big Balls. Now Jeanine Pirro has stepped in. Both Anthony Taylor, 18 years old, and Lawrence Powell, 19 years old, are going to be charged federally with assault. And that is another good outcome. So, let us turn now very quickly to something else that is happening out here. The lunacy of the left over this No Kings weekend was just astounding. I was just looking over my sound roster, and we have another few. And we have people, by the way, that are seeing through this whole No Kings business. So I found one voice on social media I want to share for you with all the stuff. By the way, No Kings. What do they do now? They had their big rally. What did it accomplish? What happens now? What directly happens from all this expenditure of energy? Cut 18. One woman gives her take on what she saw on this big No Kings weekend.
Guys, what the actual are you talking about? You love Kings. Yeah, your protest doesn't make any sense. It is so ass backwards. The people who are saying that they don't want the government to control them are the same people who want the government to control them. Yes, you want government to do everything for you. You want them to give you free health care, free housing, free food, free student loans. The list is endless. All you guys want to do is be dependent on the government. You love when government tells you what to do, like stay home and stay 6 feet apart. And you love when they subsidize your life. You are the biggest bunch of spineless douches that exist in this country.
Ooh.
And guess what? You are the tyranny. Yes, you are the tyrannical, radical oppressors. You are the people that hate everybody else that doesn't conform to your ideology. You are the ones that want to be able to have a license to respond to those that do not think the way that you do, with nothing but hatred and violence. You are the Kings. Oh my God, if it wasn't so funny, it would be sad. I've been saying it every week, but thank you. The material that you continue to provide me with is abundant and hilarious. Thank you. Really. Thank you so much.
So I ask any of you, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? We had No Kings. They all went out. According to them, 7 million people, 7 million TDS into the streets. What happens? What's the win? Okay, cut 8. Let's deal with this, get it out of the way.
Mandami is a socialist Democrat. His answer is always the same. Tax business, tax the rich, raise taxes, provide everything free. Free transportation, free food, free. New Yorkers know there is no free. You keep taxing businesses and wealthy people in New York City, there will be nobody left, Bill. They're leaving already. They've been leaving since COVID.
That was Andrew Cuomo on Fox. And, of course, breaking news, Mandami's a socialist. Breaking. Mandami's a socialist. Breaking. Andrew Cuomo claims that New Yorkers don't want free. Really? Your whole reign as governor was trying to hand out as much free as you could. If they don't want free, why were you handing out free? Your version of it. Now, is he the better choice than Mandami? Absolutely. And to that end, political bigwig, that's what the newspaper said today, political bigwig, John Catsimatidis is urging Curtis to drop out of the race, Curtis Sliwa. There was also a New York Post article about polling, and the polling indicates that if Sliwa were to drop out, there would be enough shift in the electorate to bring it near a neck and neck. Cuomo, that's what the Post says, it's polling said. That's what the Post said, citing polling that was done. That there would be a difference. Yes. And that Curtis needs to swallow the bitter pill, is what a lot of people are saying, that he should drop out of the race. And there's an article that just appeared, New York Post, 3:55 p.m. Swallow the bitter pill, Curtis Sliwa quit the race to stop Mondami. And it is, let me just say, it is, the New York Post is now calling on Curtis Sliwa to drop out. They say it burns to write this, but it's time for Curtis to face reality. Admit the city's best hope to avoid the disaster of Zohran Mondami mayoralty is for him to drop out of the race. Sliwa is absolutely right. It's not his fault that New York is on this corner. But fault isn't the issue here. The simple fact is that the Republican nominee is far back in third place in every poll with zero chances of winning. And, you know, it's time. Moving forward with no disrespect to Curtis Sliwa, if the Republican Party wants to be a viable alternative to the Democrats for citywide office, it has to do better. So, and the polling indicates that there would be a shift. Now, I have said all along, in fact, I posted over the weekend, I wondered whether I should have amended it later to say that, look, my belief in politics is always that the candidate has to earn what they get. Cuomo has to earn those votes. But you see the polling data that came out today, the reality is a grim one. And people are really seeing how grim this Mondami candidacy could be if he's elected mayor. Curtis, you got a lot to think about, but you don't have a lot of time to think about it. Better make your choice soon. James Golden, Snerdley, fastest hour in American media is going quickly. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Rush. This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Bo Snerdley.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
Rush. Now, here's James Golden.
Got to go quick here. That poll in the New York Post was a Gotham poll along with City AARP. It brings, if Curtis drops out, it brings the race within 4 points, which is margin of error, meaning it's a toss-up. All right, it's Snoop's birthday today, too. We didn't play any Snoop Doggy Dogg. Happy birthday, Snoop. Level 42 guys have a birthday today. Tom Petty's birthday today. We got to go. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your family, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here, allowing me to be with you. God willing, back tomorrow. Until then, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?